Welcome back, everybody, to this episode in where we look at the Camaro Wagon from Jimmy Flintstone in its naked form. So here I've removed all the flash out of the windows, or the wheel wells, and inside the grille here, inside the taillights, and I've installed the stock kit pieces that go with it. So I'll start pointing out, the good, the bad, and the ugly with this. So as you can see here, I've already had to scribe out the panel lines. They were quite wide, but very shallow. So a lot of work has gone into just deepening the panel line so that when it does come time for paint, it's going to take a panel line wash nicely and just make it a little bit more crisp, maybe create a shadow. The hood, or the bumper line for the front panel delineation line doesn't actually carry on all the way to the fender well, so that was added in. The holes, oh great, well, we've lost the light. I'll try and do this with one light. The holes for the grill went in fairly easily, and then I just kind of planed the surface so that everything sit flush, but the grill bottom and top does fit in nicely without any gaps whatsoever. I took a flat-headed milling bit there was like, I don't know, a bubble or something on the inside there. I think you can see a little bit of a trace that would prevent the fog lights from going in. But it's all specialized tools. There was, in this kind of intakes or false intake here, there was along that corner there was a layer of built up resin that I guess there was a bubble that had formed there, so that when it poured it just created a big gobby mess. For the most part, the hood actually fit quite well. It was just in this corner where I had to kind of flatten and plane this out and extend it a bit so that the whole hood would finish or would fit flush. The inside supports here, there's one here, one in here, and then these two at the back for the engine bay detail. This fits, if you follow the lines here, you can see it fits in quite tight. There's a bit of a gap in here, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. A lot of it came down to taking a trapezoidal bit, so if the shank is this way, then the head is wider at the end than it is at the shaft, just to make an undercut, because there was a lot of built up resin inside of this little groove area here. As you can see, it's now been undercut so it fits nice and flush. Yeah, I guess we'll go underneath here. I'm not sure whether I should be trimming this out for the main chassis, but for the most part it kind of snaps in there nice and snug. It does have a little bit of a bow, so I'm not sure if that's down to the actual resin shrinking or just the fact that the bumper needs to be trimmed up slightly. Following all of the I guess contour lines of the wheel well arches, those were sanded flush, and as you can see here, there's a little bit of a gap on that end. There's a gap inside that wheel well, but if you do kind of apply some persuasion, it does close up a little bit. The same thing with the side panels here, but following the lines should get it to fit relatively closely. Same as the story for the back arches here. I mean, this sticks out. The chassis seems to sit a little farther to the rear than it should. And then, of course, this side fits a little bit snugger than this side. Again, I'm not sure if I perhaps didn't follow the correct panel line to cut, but there was no clear delineation mark that said otherwise. So you know, I'm just going to either cast that one up to improper instructions, which there are none, or the resin shrinking over time, because this is an old mold. I'll go ahead and take the bottom of the chassis out here, just so that, well, I guess we should kind of review the interior here a little bit. As you can, hopefully you can see, the interior does not go all the way to the rear, so that is an issue I have to look into. And now the one option is you could build this out so that if you put a clear glass in there, it'll look like all one piece. Or the easiest solution would be just to tint them, which I'm probably going to do, because trying to make you know, a clear glass fit this contour without any, you know, the one downside of this kit is it does not come with any vacuum formed lenses for, or windows vacuum formed for this kit, unfortunately. So one of the big drawbacks there, I think. Yeah, so we'll just move to the rear here. This panel line I added myself. I didn't see any clear marking to say, you know, the hood, the trunk, sorry, opens up this way or it opens up this way, and I'm still gotta, you know, make a nice panel line there for the trunk to lift up. But there was no line here. There's no line here, and then there's like barely an indication for these lines. There's like maybe a slight thinner bit of resin just underneath here that suggested it. So I just went naturally with a panel line across here and a panel line following the frame downwards, and then of course I'm probably just gonna do one right across here. The taillight buckets were a little finicky, maybe a triangular file in here and a smaller rounded file to get these shapes correct, because there was a buildup of resin air bubbles in here that made it difficult. Panel lines were the same story. Like with the doors, they had to be just deepened a little bit. The guides for the headlights are here, but they're more of a suggestion. There's quite a lot of playroom in there, so make sure, for the technique that I used for this was I placed it and then kind of moved it around till I got it straight, and then kind of held it, and then put 2 dots of super glue, quick set them, just to zap it into place, and then did a beat around just to seal off the headlight bucket, or the taillight bucket, and hold it in place. The rear diffuser, it's, as you can see, this is significant, like the resin here is significantly thicker than the actual kit piece. Actually, I can grab the kit piece here and show you. So as you can see here, it's a little bit thinner for the material, whereas this is that thickness all the way around. So this diffuser does not really sit correctly. I think I've got maybe a hairline that's sitting on the back edge of this lip, so it's exposed a little, but that was where everything kind of fit up correctly. These obviously are going to need some cyanoacrylate persuasion to stay into place, and then what I might do is just build this all up with resin powder and with super glue, and then kind of carve in my own panel line there if I can't get the gap clean enough. But yeah, it's not very suggestive there as to what will go where. Yeah, just on the inside, again, there's all these issues here, which I'm almost 100% sure is going to cause issues when it comes time to fit the glass in. The same thing with these windows here. That's going to create some issues. So I think what I might end up having to do is do the same sort of lip on the inside, because this is quite thick and it could support a very thin piece of styrene. Do it all the way around the edge. Same with this one, and then try and lay a piece of thin acetate over it to make it sit flush. But that's kind of the one option I'm left with there. So not the easiest in the world, but certainly far from horrendous. I've seen some other small manufacturers do a lot worse than this. But you know, I hate to say it, but if you've got some level of experience or modeling skills, you should be able to tackle the cleanup on the body no problem, and then everything else is fairly quick and easy to throw together. I mean, the interior comes in a couple of pieces. Everything sits well, no major fiddling, and yeah, and then the only problem is just that rear deck is going to have to either be extended or smoke the glass on the back to kind of hide that, and then you maybe might be able to see it from the front or from a hard 1/8 or 1/8 value front shot. So that's our raw naked view for the Jimmy Flintstone's Camaro concept wagon. We'll come back and give you a review of the finished build when we're all done, and I'll let you know my thoughts at the end. Right now, would I say it's worth it? Probably not. I'm not a huge fan of how the molding lines were made, how there's the lack of vacuum-formed windows for the rear and for the sides. Just the overall fitment is kind of right on the edge of not fitting great and needing major work to fit. Wheel well arches, and then the panel lines were a bit of a pain. If you're going to create a lot of other crisp detail on here, you could at least crispen up those panel lines for the end user. But I mean, most of the stuff that was supposed to fit went into place without major cosmetic surgery. I mean, I think the worst of the exterior bits I had to put on was the hood sitting high in that one corner, and then just having to take a thin, small chisel and kind of ream it out. But other than that, it sits flush nearly all the way around. But yeah, would I recommend this? Unless you kind of have a really big thing for early gen wagon concepts, have at her. Just as like an average ordinary build, might not want to waste your time with it, if I'm being honest. I've got a review coming up of C1 Models 6th gen Camaro wagon coming up, and then my assumption is that's going to be a little bit better and easier to build than this here. So again, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss updates and reviews like these. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. That's where I post some kind of behind the scenes content as well. But thank you for watching, and have a good day.